Homer Austin Mandoka, Tribal Council member with the Nottawassippi Huron Band of the Potawatomi.
And where are you located?
We're about 20 minutes south of Battle Creek, Michigan.
You had a very personal, up close and personal experience with Enbridge and an oil pipeline break. And I have to ask you, I didn't hear in your presentation today, were you aware of that pipeline before the spill happened?
Not before the spill happened. As I was driving into work is when I was starting to hear about it on the news. And so when I got to work at 9 a.m., my walk from my car to the casino was very labored breathing, and my eyes started to burn.
What did you find out then? And just tell about what happened to your community.
The odor of the crude oil had taken over the whole community. Normally, Monday mornings, typically in the morning, you smell Kellogg cereal. You'll smell Post cereal. So it's a very sweet smell, and everybody always talks about it when they're visiting the area. And that odor was replaced, and we were starting to learn about the events, and we thought it was small and contained because that was our initial thoughts on it. Then we found out it was much more devastating. It was actually only about a mile from the casino.
How many gallons of oil spilled? Can you give me a few facts and figures about it? Because some people still don't understand how large, that it was the largest inland oil spill in the U.S.
Yes, the minimum numbers are about 850,000 gallons. The worst case scenario from that situation was projections of about 1.1 to 1.2 million gallons of crude oil spilled into the creek and into the Kalamazoo River.
Were you considering closing down the casino?
That was part of the discussions, but one thing that was important was that we had built into a air infiltration system to reduce smoke and better enhance the air quality. That played to our benefit once you got inside the building, but the area and the environment was still very pungent. A lot of people were being relocated.
Drinking water was affected. Can you explain the effects of it and the effects on your tribe?
Well, the effects on our tribe was that we started to get inundated with a series of telephone calls, and we actually had to put together on the fly what our responses were going to be, because when we were actually performing our environmental impact assessment for the casino lands, that topic had never came up. We were never given that type of information about the pipeline even being in that location. We received a lot of other information for this study, but nothing to do with the pipeline. So, we really were, trying to reverse engineer some of the information and put out notices to our tribal members about the air quality situation.
What do you then entered into talks with Enbridge after the disaster, during the disaster? Maybe just an assessment of how Enbridge handled that and how you feel about Enbridge handling the pipeline underneath the Straits of Mackinac, which we really didn't know much about until the Kalamazoo oil spill.
Okay. The perspective from the tribal governments was that it was a very poor start because what Enbridge was doing was denying tribal opportunities from commenting and being involved in the process and assessing damages. It took us a better part of a year to get involved with that. We actually had to ask the United States Attorney in Grand Rapids to intervene on our behalf. So that took some time, and that was painstaking to go through. So, that was very important to recognize that, but ultimately we were able to get involved as a party to the case and start addressing our issues with our staff, our environment department, our culture department, and our legal department as a resource.
As we go forward and more attention is focused on Line 5 underneath Straits of Mackinac, do you feel okay about that oil being transported through a pipeline that's snaking through Michigan and lots of areas owned by tribes, or that where the tribes exist?
Well, I am very hopeful that the two reports that are due back to the Pipeline Safety Advisory Board will shed more light on the information. They're doing a alternative analysis, and I'm really hopeful that there's some viable solutions there that will protect and preserve the waters of the Great Lake. It's really important to the Native Americans because our Aboriginal creation stories are beginning with water, and so it's really important as far as our culture to make sure that we do the best we can and to preserve the water quality. The other analysis is the risk analysis that's being performed. That'll be delivered to the Pipeline Safety Advisory Board that was created by Governor Snyder. So we're hoping that those reports give us more light. What I would say is that those reports are expected to be delivered by the 4th of July. So we're given some relative confidence that that's going to be achieved. But we've been performing those studies now for the better part of a year and a half.
NWF, who you were on the panel with today, has come out and said they want that Line 5 pipeline decommissioned. Do you guys go that far?
Yes, our tribal council has authorized a resolution to shut down Line 5 because we do not know what the impacts will be, and there's very little information out there how to measure the impacts if there was a release. So, you know, we started out saying that shut the line down, do the study, then do the study. Right now it's operational and they're still doing the study, you know, contiguously in that sense. So not knowing all the risk and what the risk assessments on the line will be very important. There are dozens of communities and tribal communities that have offered resolutions to shut down Line 5 and then do the studies. So those are, we get a lot of resolutions from local governments and nonprofit associations such as NWF.
One thing I just wanted to point out, it just is the final question. Talk about wild rice and other natural resources that are so important to your tribe that I think many people in the room today didn't realize were at risk in the event of a pipeline spill.
Yeah, wild rice is very important to Native American communities. Historically, they were seen as a food resource, and as well as bringing in other foods for hunting purposes, such as for ducks and geese, and brought in that, and that was promoted hunting and food gathering for the tribes. So it's very important, you know, pre the state of Michigan, for the tribes to have that. When the state of Michigan then came into play, you've seen a lot of the rivers and waterways change from either an agricultural standpoint of dumping crops into the creek, which was the case in our scenario, which changed the flow of the creek near our reservation, and it actually was not good for the wild rice, and then the ducks and the geese and everything started to go away. Had an impact on our community to the negative, because I can talk to our ancestors that were alive during that era and hear about, you know, that's what they did for their daily meals and how they fed their families. So, you know, in that context, it's really important for Native American communities. Wild rice, we see it as it could be the potential for a very important agricultural crop for the state of Michigan. Right now, there's very little attention on it, but with the Great Lakes and the waterways, that wild rice could be very important.
One last thing. What do we do about oil transport in general? Do you wish it would just go away? Do we need to look for other methods of energy?
I think it needs to catch up with the times, the transportation of it, because what we're relying on is old systems that were back in the 1950s or even older than that. And that industry needs to catch up with the times with the new alloy materials that we have, space age, you know, concepts, materials that can be stronger, more durable, less frequency to these rupture points. Let's take a good look at that. You know, it's hard for me to say that, you know, we're not going to need oil, because obviously there is a heavy demand, and if we were to, you know, shut down or do something different, the cost to the consumer is then driving up there. We don't want to play to that negative effect, you know, but it's important that we recognize the time and era that we're in, and look at space age, you know, type concepts of transporting oil and how it can be done safely.